What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. We are here with another edition of Power Rankings. This one is a little bit more than of a month past May's Power Rankings. We're going to go today and then probably do another one right before League's Cup break. That would make a lot of sense. But it's nut crunch time here at MLS. There's a lot of games coming up this summer. This is where you decide if you're going to be a real playoff team, if your seeding is fixed. Like, we're going to look at it at the end of the season. There's going to be a lot of crucial games coming up with, decision day. Can we pick up 3 points? Can we move forward? All this, look back at some of these games when you're missing players international duty or there's a nagging injury for one team or the other. You blew a lead at home or you came back and grabbed a couple extra points on the road. This is where good teams either stay in the mix and keep themselves afloat so that they can make that run towards the end of the season, or this is when you win points now and you have a bit of a cushion later. Teams like DC United in the past have missed the playoffs. Chicago missed the playoffs by a handful of points. It's easy to point back to the games at the end of the season, but for me, it's about the summer. It's about these 3 points mean the same as decision day, mean the same as opening day, right? Like, it's simple math. It's not super fun to talk about on videos like this, but while sometimes it's difficult in midseason MLS games to lose focus, to look at whatever, there's so many games, a billion things are happening, we'll see what happens at the end of the year. All these points count the same, man, and these are some big times. With that spiel, I know that we're all looking at the Copa America, we're all watching the Euros. That's more fun than everything else going on right now. But just keep that in mind that these points all count the same, even if everybody's locked on to this tournament, to these games, or if not. So it's important times. Let's take the temperature of where the league is. Power rankings with tiers coming at you now. In we go to your monthly MLS power rankings here on my YouTube channel. As always, we do this by tiers, and I'm going to start it off with this one, the worst tier, bottom to top. This tier is called YIKES. Number 29, San Jose Earthquakes. Number 28, Sporting Kansas City. I think that these two teams are in a tier of their own currently for how dire things are, how disappointing things are, and how bleak things are. We'll start with San Jose Earthquakes. This is down 5 from last time. I remember last time I was surprised that I moved them up a little bit. They had just signed Hernan Lopez. They had just gotten a win. They got unlucky in a game against Portland. I was trying to talk myself into it, trying to see the positivity, and I think that it was there. And dear God, since then, it's just been so very bad with the San Jose Earthquakes. They just fired Luchi Gonzalez. They have 51 goals conceded, very easily worse than MLS. The 4 worst goalkeepers by numbers this season, cumulative numbers, not per 90 numbers, 3 of the 4 are San Jose Earthquakes goalkeepers. The 3 that they've had. The goalkeepers themselves have cost them, I think, 15 or 16 goals just on shots on target versus expected saves, right? It's insane how truly bad it's been. What do they need to do now? It's just build around Espinoza and Lopez. I said this in my video earlier this week. Just get assets, whatever you can, reset. It's another lost season at this point. They're going to talk themselves into it in the locker room. It's MLS. Hey, if they reel off 3 wins in a row, that's great. I just don't think that this team is really going anywhere, and you have to have that long-term vision. What's unfortunate for San Jose, they haven't been to the second round of the playoffs since 2012. That's a dozen years ago. Since then, they've missed the playoffs entirely 8 times. And one time they lost in the play-in game, which was last year. And I don't count that as making the playoffs. I view it like the NBA does. If you make the play-in tournament, that's not the playoffs unless you get through. But I digress. We're going to have to come back to that at a later date to see what's what for MLS and how we want to talk about it. But the whole point is they haven't made the playoffs very much. And when they do, they're first round and out. So it's been really disappointing for the San Jose Earthquakes. Speaking of disappointment, number 28, Sporting Kansas City, down 2 from last time. And this is why I was saying, I just don't think that this team is very good. And I don't say that to be mean or anything, but that's just kind of where I was. This team, oh my God, the situation is just absolutely broken. They had a nice run last year, but it was a mirage. They have 1 win in their last 14 games right now. They're conceding goals like crazy. The only team that's conceded more goals is the San Jose Earthquakes, who, we just covered. They fired their technical director, Brian Bliss. I don't have any confirmation on who's coming in next, but some of the names I've heard are just about the least inspiring that I could possibly imagine. If you go in a group chat and just try to make guesses, it's not exactly awe-inspiring and thinking outside the box. But we'll see what happens with that official hire and what happens. But look, man, this situation is just broken. This is kind of reminds me of where Toronto were last year. You can try to keep putting Band-Aids around the situation. This team needs an absolute overhaul. So what they need to do this summer is every decision has to be made like that. And I don't know if they're going to because Peter Vermees is still in charge. Peter Vermees, the general manager, should have been fired a couple of years ago. And I think that at some point it has to cost Peter Vermees, the head coach, his job. But, we'll see what happens. I don't know. I just don't have a ton of juice here on Sporting Kansas City. Next tier. Okay, it was a transition year. Number 27, DC United. 26, CF Montreal. 25, Chicago Fire. So this tier for me, these three teams, I think that DC comes close to being in that bottom tier. Montreal as well. Chicago have moved up. I don't think that they're in that YIKES tier at the moment, so good for them. But the through line for these three teams are nobody had real expectations of them for 2024, or for the most part, the majority, right? Maybe there's a dissenting voice here or there. And DC were overperforming. Montreal had a good start on the road. Chicago, that through line doesn't work for them, but you kind of get my point, right? This was a transition year, and particularly for DC United, which I think makes the most sense for this. They're winless in their last 8. They have 17 points dropped from winning positions, which is second most in MLS, which is tied with Sporting Kansas City, and I believe San Jose are last, but it's just bad. They were kind of XG darlings earlier in the season where they were dropping points late, and they were still winning the XG battle. And I just don't think that there's enough talent in this team to overcome that. And it's just, like I said, winless in 8 in a row. The talent's catching up. I don't think that they have a lot of flexibility for the summer. I know that they don't have a lot of flexibility. Even if they were if they were, all around the playoff line or above the playoff line, I don't believe that they would be mortgaging their future to try to bring in a short-term boost for the summer. So, again, I feel pretty confident that's where they're going to be at. Number 26, CF Montreal, up 2 from last time. Look, they're dead last in expected goals against, third worst in goals conceded. They have only 1 win in their last 12, and that win came against DC United, which is why they're ahead of DC United. Look, where do we want to go on this one? We could talk about the talent deficiency from, the first team roster. We could talk about the organizational turmoil. Sporting director, second in charge, leaves. There's stories after stories of the ownership meddling. Wilfred Nancy got run out of town. All these other things, like stories of Mathieu Tournier wants to leave. Like, if Mathieu Tournier needs to leave, like that's tough, man. So not a ton good to say. I wish that they would spend some money. Bologna, the club that they also own, that Joey Saputo also owns, they just made the Champions League. We got some money, man. Like, it'd be nice to invest into the team, but it's a reality of the situation, and they have been good without significant investment, and that's what they're trying to get back to with Laurent Courtois. Things, they just need to keep on evolving the roster, evolving the game model, and honestly get healthy, because they've been super unlucky with injuries. That is the disappointment trifecta between those things. Again, the talent, the injuries, and the organizational stuff. So Montreal 26. Number 25, Chicago Fire. 2 wins in the last 3 games. Hello. Coming up, they go at Seattle versus Philadelphia, at San Jose. They need to pick up points in this run. They've looked much better since Xherdan Shaqiri left, which is not good at Shaqiri. They're technically dead last in the East, 1 point behind DC and Montreal. But part of the reason why I do this as tiers and the way the power rankings, it's not just, taking supporter shield standings and going in reverse order or whatever. Like, I think that this team is better than those 2 teams. And again, they're only 3 points below the playoff line. Obviously, they need to hop over like 5 or 6 teams. But Chicago Fire have star forward Hugo Kuipers. Maybe star's too strong at the moment, but like there's a lot to like there. They have a lot of pieces I like. Again, Count Acosta, Hal Selassie, Chris Brady. You kind of going down the list. Like, there's some pieces in this team. If they get the signings right, this could be interesting. But before then, they still have 4 or 5 games left that they need to pick up these points. And we'll see where they are when we get into the summer transfer window opening. Next tier, this one's a big one, and I think this just speaks to where the league itself is. Again, most years, particularly with the forgiving playoff structure, everything else, I can go a lot of different ways on a lot of these teams. What we're going to call this one is Before It's Too Late. Number 24 is St. Louis City. Number 23, FC Dallas. 22, Atlanta. 21, Toronto FC. 20, New England Revolution. 19, Philadelphia Union. 18, Orlando City. Let's start with St. Louis City. It's been a really, really tough stretch. 8 games winless. They're having an attacking makeover this summer with Toichert and Hartle coming in. I know I keep on repeating this, but they still have 4 games until summer reinforcements can come in. It might be too late. They're 6 points below the playoff line already. We'll kind of see how all of that goes, but right now, like, the help ain't coming through the door yet. Like, they need to right the ship over these next few games, and that is super, super important so that their season isn't over by the time that Toichert and Hartle get here and debut. Number 23, FC Dallas, up 1 from last time. New coach and Peter Luchain with Nico Estevez being like, oh, dare I say that they're fun. We got 9 goals in the last 3 games. You'd love to see it. Peter Moose is getting the goals. Jesus Ferreira is healthy and playing well. The playoff line in the Western Conference is a little bit higher right now than the East. So Dallas are 5 points below the playoff line. Again, there's still plenty of time left in the season, particularly if the new vibes are coming with the coach and serious improvement in performance and picking up results. So Dallas, that's where things are at. Number 22, Atlanta United. No change from last week. Oof, they need a coach. They need a DP9. They will soon need a DP10 once they sort the Thiago Almada deal. There's just a lot of unknowns here. What I will say on the positive side, I have absolute confidence that Garth Lagerwey will figure this out. They will spend money. It's just to figure, like right now, they have to kind of be 22nd. This could kind of go either way. They are technically above the playoff line with 21 points, but again, like there's just so many unknowns with this team, and there are no lost seasons for Atlanta United. That has to be the idea. That's the goal. That's the ambition. Everything else. They need to tread water here so that when a new DP9 comes in, when a new head coach comes in, when a new DP10 comes in, that this team still is within striking distance. As Toronto FC, even when you have Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi coming in 22, that they had a hole too big to get out of. Inter Miami with Lionel Messi, they win Leagues Cup. He misses a few games down the stretch. They were in a hole too big to climb out of. So Atlanta United has to at least be within touching distance of the playoff line. They're already slipping away from the top 7, which would be getting out of the play-in game, because they're already 5 points behind that. And again, I would kind of assume that gap is going to increase. Toronto FC, number 21, down 11 from last time. Winless in 6, 3 losses straight. 1 win in their last 9. And, they're down 11 in these rankings because I think I overcorrected last time, because I was ready for this kind of drop, and then they righted the ship and won a few games or whatever they did. Right? Maybe it was just the one game. And I think I might have overvalued that. I still believe in the talent. I still believe in the head coach. I still believe in the structure. But like with DC United and talking about a couple of those, it is a transition year. Like, this still is a transition year. It's just weird to say that when 2 of your players, Lorenzo Insigne and Federico Bernardeschi, they have what the positive is here. While they've conceded a lot of goals, they have a very bad goal difference particularly for a playoff team, -7. But they've picked up a lot of points early in the season, so they're ahead of Atlanta. They're in a good spot that they could have these dips that are going to come with the team under a new coach and everything else. Their next 2 games are at Atlanta versus Orlando. Those are 2 huge games. Those are the 2 teams that are directly behind them. Both of those teams are 3 points behind them. If they can survive this really bad run, if they turn it around, but it has to kind of be right now. And these 2 games are going to go, I think, a long way deciding the fate of their season. Number 20, New England Revolution, +9 from our last time. They went from dead last to 20th. 4 wins in a row. Hello, I can be positive about this team. It's well earned. We'll see how real it is, but I'm not even going to say that yet. I just want to talk about this team is performing much better. Caleb Porter has said that they're still buying in the locker room. He said, we've still had the plan, the players, all this. So that's great. Again, and for all my criticisms, all the criticisms around this team, they deserve to take a little bit of, not a victory lap, because going from dead last to, 2 points below the playoff line, you don't celebrate anything there, but you can take an exhale. All the people like myself who have been super critical, we kind of have to eat it for right now. So well done to the New England Revolution for this 4-game win streak. The bad news is Thomas Chonkalai out for the season with a partially torn ACL. They'll put him on the season-ending injured list, and now they can add a designated player. I would go with another winger. I know that they have Esmir that can still start, but if you're going to bring in a DP forward, I think you do that if you get rid of Rioni. I think that you need to structure these DPs where all 3 can play together, but I don't know what exactly is going to happen. This weekend, they're playing against the Columbus Crew. We'll see if they're for real. Even if they perform well and don't win, I think that will be a boost. But if Columbus come in and just put the smackdown on them, I think the vibes will be right back to where they were. After that, home to Atlanta, and in the very near future, they play Orlando. Those are 2 games that are going to be much more important, I think, than this Crew game. But if you can keep the momentum, perform well against the Columbus Crew, that'd be really, really good for this team to keep the good times rolling. As for bad times rolling, Philadelphia Union, what in the hell is happening? 3 losses in a row, winless in 6, 1 win in the last 13. Yet it's largely the same team as last year and largely the same core as the last few years. I don't really get it. There's somehow still 6 in expected goal difference, at around +6. their goalkeeping situation has been miserable this year. Andrew Rick is now the one up getting chances. Andre Blake is gone with Jamaica at the Copa America anyway. And like I think that this can be simplified to not a lack of difference in both boxes. It's not just the goalkeeper, though I think that is the biggest difference in this team losing points. Center backs haven't been as good as they usually are. Again, this is defender of the year. And then up top, they haven't had difference makers in the attacking box. Like, again, they're scoring goals, so I'm not going to pin it there. Like, I know that's an easy way to go. Like, this defense simply has to be better, and it doesn't make sense for a Jim Curtin-led team. On the face of things, they should be below New England. They should probably be below Toronto, and you could make the argument for Atlanta, right? For me, trying to look at this macro rather than just reactive to the last month of results, I know that this could look very dumb. I still think the Philadelphia Union have a better outlook than the teams that I have behind them, but again, I could very much be wrong, and I really wouldn't put up much of a fight, but it's a committee of one here, and the committee of one has Philadelphia Union, number 19. Number 18, Orlando City. Snapped a 5-game winless run against Chicago. That's cool, but like that's still one win in the last 6, and Chicago, don't mean to be hitting them with a stray, not exactly going on the road and beating Columbus Crew LAFC, right? Like, so the next few games, at NYCFC, at Toronto, versus DC, at New England, at Nashville. That's four road games, but those 5 opponents aren't extremely tough, and the last 4 of which you'll be fighting for playoff spots. That's going to decide if they're actually good or if this is just a disastrous season. That's going to at least inform if anything really happens in the summer. I know Duncan McGuire is first and foremost on that list, but right where they are right now, it's like this is the season over the next 3-4 weeks before the transfer window opens. If you guys are a good team, like everybody expected them to be, they're a team that had 60 points or whatever last year. It has to get right now. You're running out of time before it's too late, as the name of this tier. So I'm curious to see what happens with Orlando, but going on the road for all those games, we'll see, man. We'll see. Next tier, I didn't really have a good name for this, so I'm calling it Summer Vibes because all of these teams have something that they could do in the summer or have already done, and we're going to see what happens that will dictate the rest of their season. Number 17, Nashville SC. 16, Austin FC. 15, Vancouver Whitecaps. 14, Minnesota United. 13, Seattle Sounders. Nashville SC. Nashville have a new head coach coming in this summer, and that is their summer move, plus a little bit of maneuvering in the transfer market, but they only have 1 loss in the last 5, and that was what looked to be a weird home loss to New England, but it's gotten less weird over the last few weeks as New England have proved that they're playing much better. One of the wins have come against New York City FC this weekend, and one of those wins came at Cincinnati. So Nashville are earning these points. This is much more like what we thought we were going to see from this team. They've conceded more than 1 goal, I believe, just one time since losing to Inter Miami on April 20th. So the defense is much more like what we thought. Again, with the team with the top-end talent of Hadi Mukhtar, Walker Zimmerman, Sam Surridge, and a couple of their other like veteran pieces, right? I don't need to go down naming the whole roster. This team might not be one of the best 3 talented teams in the East, but they're pretty easily should be a playoff team, right? And that's where they are right now, above the line. I'm super curious to see that they're at home to Miami coming up. Then they're at Columbus, at Portland. That's a tough run of 3 games, even if obviously Lionel Messi and Luis Suarez won't be there. Miami have proved to be a very good team even without them. But things right now for Nashville SC look much, much better than they did, a month ago, a few weeks ago. Number 16, Austin FC. They're down 5. They are still the 3rd worst expected goal difference in MLS. And they just had a 5-game winless run, but that was snapped with a very big win on the road against Minnesota. So they've shown that they can still kind of get results. We'll see exactly how the season goes from here on out. Again, like I know that I probably have upset Austin fans by again talking about the expected goals, all that, right? Like, and that's fair to kind of give me crap, but like I've been lower on this team most of the season. I think I've been the slowest to react to pull them up in power rankings, and that would inform kind of why I have them 16th here. They got at Kansas City next, and you got to take care of business. And then again, I really, really like what they've done in the transfer window. I like how early and how quickly they've done. All 3 of these players should be ready to go. Center back Savatak, right back Dessler, and club record signing winger Usman Bukhari. I think that's fantastic. I think that these are 3, at least 2 new starters, again, one of which your club record signing. So Austin FC, I'd say things are, while I'm undervaluing them right now, I can still say that I think that this team is going to keep improving. And again, like You can talk about expected goals and all you want. You pretend like you call things lucky or whatever word you want to use. Doesn't matter. They've picked up the points, and that's going to keep them in the playoff race for the rest of the season. These new signings, they have done everything they can to have these new signings hit the ground running and maximize every minute they have here. So I really, really like what Austin did there. Number 15, Vancouver Whitecaps, down 1. Look, man, I just thought they'd be at least a little bit better. They're 13th in expected goal difference, 13th in goal difference. They're a solid playoff team, but just not much else for me at the moment. 2 wins in the last 10. Again, while I've definitely been critical of this team, I think rightly, I don't think that they suck. I just think that they're a solid playoff team and not much more, not much less. I will say, if they lose at home to St. Louis this weekend, I will officially start panicking. And I think officially that would be extraordinarily worrying. They have at Minnesota, at Montreal, at St. Louis after this game. Home to St. Louis, you got to pick up these points. The schedule doesn't get tough again, but again, these next, and then home to Kansas City. So these next 5 games, if they don't pick up points starting with this weekend, I'm going to start to get very worried about this Vancouver Whitecaps team. Number 14, Minnesota United. They're coming back to earth a little bit now. 3 losses in a row, 1 win in the last 7, but still, even right now, they're overperforming expectations from the beginning of the season. That is still to be celebrated. The goal has to be playoffs, and that's something that they can still manage very, very easily, I might add, because they're in 5th place. It's jumbled in the West. It's teams coming from below the line. Got the playoff line is at 25 points right now. They're at 29. A lot can happen for the rest of the season, but again, I really like the bones of what this team has done. I like Eric Ramsey as a coach. I like what the front office have done. I don't know if they have any major moves coming or not, but I still think that this team is going to be solid or competitive, and so I don't see the bottom falling out, but we'll see what happens in the near future. Number 13, Seattle Sounders. They're waking up. Only 1 loss in the last 6 games. They're scoring goals. They had a big comeback win over FC Dallas at home on Sunday. But then even when things are going well, we're building momentum. Everything's doing good. Raul Ruiz-Diaz and Nuhu kind of don't come. They go straight to the locker room. They get in an argument with Brian Schmetzer, as per the wonderful reporting at Sounder at Heart, a very good website that you should be reading about the Seattle Sounders. Anyway, they broke the news and kind of detailed what happened with Nuhu, Ruiz-Diaz, and Brian Schmetzer. Ruiz-Diaz and Nuhu are suspended for a week, so even when things are going well, there's still something to kind of take away a little bit. But I like it from Brian Schmetzer. They need to continue moving in a new direction. Nuhu hasn't been very good over the last 2 years, really, at left back for starting left backs in his league. Raul Ruiz-Diaz is at the stage of the career he's at. I'm curious to see if ownership's going to step up and put in money, and then maybe they'll, get out of the Ruiz-Diaz deal with, a few months left on his contract and bring in a DP9. Who knows what's going to happen? That's why I have them as summer vibes here, and I know that I'm overvaluing them at 13th here, but I think that the foundation of this team is so strong, and again, if they go out and get another attacking piece, and when Pedro de la Vega, I guess maybe if Pedro de la Vega ever does get healthy, I think this team has a lot of upside, and I think their floor is where they are right now. Here, we're going to call them Frisky playoff teams because I think that they deserve to be ahead of the last tier that I said, not quite at the outer ring contenders, but I think that these teams are close, and I think with the right summers and putting things together, there's a real upside for these teams. 12, Portland Timbers, 11, Houston Dynamo, 10, Charlotte FC, 9, Colorado Rapids. The through line for all 4 of these teams, again, is I think that there's a lot of positivity, and I think that there are upside from where, again, it's already been a solid parts of the season right now for all these teams, but I think that there's more upside. So the Portland Timbers, 6 games unbeaten. That's 7 of their last 8 unbeaten. They've even picked up some clean sheets along the way. That had been the part that eluded them. They've got, again, it's not a murderer's row of wins. Their last 4 wins, Kansas City, Austin, San Jose, Vancouver, in their ties to Houston and St. Louis, and a loss to Minnesota after they had beat San Jose. Regardless, I think this team was underperforming earlier in the season. And again, the schedule got a little light, but I do think that the team is legitimately good. They have flexibility to add a DP in the summer if they can shore up the defense. Maxime Crépeau is playing out of his goddamn mind for Canada right now. Kamal Miller is also with Canada. Those are their 2 key defensive players. And they're still picking up points right now. So again, it's fair to poke holes in the recent schedule. It's fair to ask those questions. But for me, my judgment of this is I think that this team is better than they were earlier in the season, so maybe this is just regression to the mean. The next games, they got Minnesota at Dallas, home to Nashville, home to Real Salt Lake. They could, keep this pace. It's really strong, and then get to a point if they get their summer signings right. Could be a dangerous team, but for now, they're kind of at the bottom of this tier. Number 11, Houston Dynamo, up 8 from last time. They have Zico Ponce, club record, new DP signing, coming in this summer. They've are unbeaten in their last 5. 3 of those are draws, but that's okay. Surprisingly, they haven't kept a clean sheet for, I don't know, when was this game? They haven't kept a clean sheet in a month and a half, May 5th. Like, that's surprising considering how good their numbers are defensively, both in terms of goals against and expected goals in general, all the underlying stuff. This is a good team. If Ponce is very good, if he can, Sebas Ferreira even just scored a hat trick against DC United. Like, they're in a really good spot. When Coco Carrasquilla comes back, if he saves for the rest of the season, all that, like, this team went to the Western Conference Finals last year. We have to keep reminding ourselves that this is a very good team when things are all firing on all cylinders. They've dealt with injuries all year. Some things have been unfortunate. Ponce's coming in. Hector Herrera is Hector Herrera. We got all that going on. So Houston Dynamo, I think that this is a good team. And if Ponce is really good, they become an outer ring contender. Number 10, Charlotte FC. Up 2 from last time. Charlotte, unbeaten in 4. 3 of those were wins. Patrick Adjimang scoring goals. He just went to Philadelphia. Adjimang scored twice. I keep saying it every time, so it's a little bit boring or it's a little bit repetitive, but it is worth repeating, particularly on these macro-type shows. Their foundation is extremely solid. They've been doing this with somewhere between 0 and 1 DPs all season. Liel Abada, I think it's safe to say, is a good signing. I think that he can get even better if you put an if you sign a DP number 10. What I know that they're going to do is their plan is to sign a DP9, and if they kill it with a DP9, maybe you could tweak the formation. Maybe there's a way to play Patrick Adjimang with that 9 if you don't sign a DP10. If you sign a DP9 and you keep Carlos Swiderski, that's not a bad strike partnership. I don't know how it kind of upsets the balance of what Dean Smith is playing, but look, man, there's just so much to like about this team. And then you look at what they have for the summer in terms of flexibility. They can add at least 1 DP, if not 2, if Swiderski leaves, as kind of both parties are expecting or hoping or wanting, but we'll see what happens. They have the ambition and they have the money to go try to make big signings. And 3, they're coming from a point of strength. It's not coming from, oh my gosh, like maybe they could just, get like Ricky Pooch last year for the Galaxy. He was still awesome. He couldn't paper over all the cracks. Right now, they're adding from a point of strength, and that is so very exciting about the Charlotte team. Number 9, Colorado Rapids, 3 wins in a row. What's up? What's up, Rapids fans? They just finished completed the deal to sign Rafa Navarro from Palmeiras, keeping the on-loan striker permanently. He's a DP. That's good. The starting 11 makes a ton of sense. They're going to try to add a defensive midfielder this year. They're probably going to try to be opportunistic and tweak the attack. What I'm told is they're going to go for it if they can. Whatever, if there's a deal that makes sense that makes this team better, they want to capitalize on this moment. This is kind of what I like about this team, that they understand you're not always going to be a top 4 team in the Western Conference. Every team, their ambition is that's the expectation all the time, but the reality of the league is you ebb and flow. It's been a bad period for the last probably 18 months for the Rapids, or before the season started. Last 2, after 21 was that when they topped the Western Conference. Time is a flat circle. It's tough. I'm talking about 29 teams off the top of my head. It's last video I got Felipe Moore's name wrong because I'm an idiot, but also because I'm talking about 29 teams. So this is just deflecting from my own mistakes. Anyway, my point is that it doesn't always work out this way, and the Colorado Rapids understand. They're not we're really good this year, we'll be even better next year. There's plenty of time. No, they want to strike while the iron's hot. This team is all rising, but they're a lot of it is early prime, or rather than just 20-year-old players. Even Cole Bassett's a young guy, but he's got so much experience, particularly MLS experience, particularly he's already gone to Europe and come back. There's this team is ready to win if they can. If Zach Stephanie's been statistically one of the worst shot stoppers in the league, if he can be league average, that's going to bring this team up even further. Down to the business end of the power rankings, this tier, outer ring contenders. Number 8, New York City FC. Number 7, New York Red Bulls. 6, Real Salt Lake. 5, LA Galaxy. Let's start with New York City FC. I'm probably overvaluing them a little bit after a 3-game losing streak, but those 3 losses were Columbus, at Galaxy, at Nashville. Those are 3 good teams, and I would say in the case of Columbus and LA Galaxy, very good. These are the ebbs and flows that come with the season. I still think that the spine of this team, their central midfield trio in particular, and then the center back duo and goalkeeper, is absolutely elite. And I'm just going to bet on that, right? If they, continue to struggle over the next month, then I'll absolutely drop them out. But I kind of went back and forth with them and Colorado, or hey, maybe they should be in the Frisky playoff teams. I just think that they're a little bit better than that. So that's why I have NYCFC where they are. Number 7, New York Red Bulls. I still think that the Red Bull ceiling is higher than NYCFC's. And that, for me, just comes down to Emil Forsberg. And let's see if the Red Bulls can add a DP forward this summer. They have 1 win in the last 4. It's been a bit of a plodding summer. Forsberg has been in and out of the lineup with international duty and injury. Again, I just still believe in this team. Noah Isla has been such a good signing. The defense, the back line is very strong. It's gonna struggle. They're gonna struggle to replace Frankie Amaya, but I know that they're working to do that this summer. This team has been very good over the years of replacing outbound talent. Maybe not always quickly, maybe not always, perfectly, and to the ire of fans who are hoping for win now. If this team signs a DP center forward, I think all will be forgiven, even though, again, Frankie Amaya is going to be a very difficult player to replace, but they're going to try to do that. And as a sign of goodwill, hopefully that they bring in a DP number 9. Again, that's what the sources have told me, that they're going to do it. We'll see what happens. It's all about making deals and identifying targets. But again, if the Red Bulls could really the Red Bulls could be one of these top tier teams, and maybe by the end of the season, I'll be calling it, the top 7 are teams. Like, I think it's, Real Salt Lake 6, LA Galaxy 5. I think it's a little tough on them to be in the outer ring contenders, but I don't think that you can call inner circle contenders and have 6 teams. Whatever. I digress. It's my own stupid rules. Number 6, Real Salt Lake, down 3. Again, this is probably a little harsh, but look, they have 2 wins over the last 5. I know technically only the 1 loss, but when you're at this end of the table, you go by wins and not by not the avoiding of losses. The one that's just disappointing, that loss came against the LA Galaxy at home. Look, your season isn't defined by one game, particularly at the top, but this is a team that hadn't played a top team in the league recently. So this game at home against the LA Galaxy was a really good chance for them to be like, no, we are the class of the Western Conference. Right now, out west, Real Salt Lake, LA Galaxy, LAFC, they're all tied on 37 points. This is going to be fun as hell, coming down the second half of the season, and when we get down into the last quarter in particular, of seeing how this race is going to shake out, because I think all 3 of these teams would be deserving number 1 seeds out west. Let's see what Real Salt Lake do in terms of their summer transfer window. They are still 3rd in MLS in expected goal difference, behind the Red Bulls, who are 2nd, and we'll get to LAFC later, but Jesus Christ, they are so far ahead of everybody else. Anyway, Real Salt Lake, a very good team nonetheless. And again, as I've said this on previous shows, my expectations for this team continue to climb. LA Galaxy, number 5, up 3 from last week. They've had a good little segment here. Again, huge win at Real Salt Lake. They had just beat NYCFC as well. So that's 3 wins in a row, 5 wins in their last 6. It's a really strong bounce back after they had 4 draws in a row, right? And it was like, all right, did we overvalue them? Is the attack, is it shaky? Is the defense just too bad for them to really kind of be one of these best teams? And they proved that no. 2 shutouts, again, 1 against RSL on the road. That is a fantastic result. Again, Chicho Arango left early. Whatever. You can make whatever little minor excuses. They stepped up, and they played really well in a very big game. At San Jose, new coach bounce is their next game. Cali Clasico, that's always, should be tough. As with where San Jose is in the season, the context of playing the LA Galaxy for the Cali Clasico and a new head coach, that's as tough, air quote, as it gets to play the San Jose team. LAFC just stomped them 6-2. It's not going to be that same kind of layup, but maybe it will. But I don't know. They have this fixture got a little bit harder after the context of firing a coach and everything else. But after San Jose, they play home to LAFC. So man, I can't wait. This is a super fun month for the Galaxy. Let's see how they kind of continue that form. And here we go now to the top inner circle contenders, our top 4. Columbus Crew, no change from last month. FC Cincinnati down 2. Miami even at number 2. And we have a new number 1, folks. LAFC. Let's start with number 4, Columbus Crew. 5 wins in their last 6. 5 of those games were on the road. They are absolutely cooking. They're 3rd in MLS in expected goals against, which I was pleasantly surprised to see. 17th in expected goals, which is obviously a shock considering Wilfred Nancy team, but the context is the fixture congestion and the rotation because of CONCACAF Champions Cup. Do you honestly believe that they're 17th in expected goals for Wilfred Nancy team with Diego Rossi, Cucho Hernandez, Darlington Nagbe, everybody else in this team? Do you think that number is going to hold? No. That's going to get better. The reason why they're 4th here is because they lost to Miami a couple weeks ago. Again, it's disappointing, but again, 1 game sample size, no Messi. You'd hope that there was going to be more there. Again, that doesn't ruin their season, but that's just why they're 4th instead of, say, 2nd or 1st, right? So Columbus Crew, I don't know. I keep saying it every single week. It seems like they have the blend of championship experience, absolute top-end elite talent. They have depth. They have a bunch of options. They have flexibility to add this summer. So, again, Columbus Crew, it would take a lot for them to drop out of this top tier for me, and I don't think that that's going to happen anytime soon. Number 3, FC Cincinnati. Lost to New England and Nashville at home in the last 4 games, which is why they dropped from 1st to 3rd to me. They still look very strong, but obviously Matt Miazga out for the season. That's brutal. Reigning defender of the year, so important to this team. So now there's more questions. But even with that injury, I can't drop them below third because they still have Lucho. Miles Robinson will be back. Like last year, it's not like they had this year they've had Miazga and Robinson. Last year just had Miazga. So Robinson can play that Miazga role, and we've seen that they can go by. This front office, they've been incredible since they took over. They've hit on a bunch of signings. So with the roster slot and salary cap that they're getting back by putting Miazga on season-ending injured list, I trust them to make a good signing. Like, they're at that point. Like, prove me wrong. So I make a bad deal, right? Like, they've had an overwhelming hit rate. So FC Cincinnati have Lucho Okoza, who I've said the best non-Messi player in MLS. There's just so much to like in this team, and Miazga injury hurts, but they've got so much quality. Number 2, Inter Miami. They've navigated this period without Messi and without Suarez pretty good. 2 games and 2 without them. They're still atop the Shield, and Messi's going to miss a few more games, but look, at Philadelphia, home to Columbus, they won both those games without those players. The next up, it's not going to be easy. At Nashville, at Charlotte, at Cincy. So it's important for them to pick up at least 4 points, I'd say, if not more, for this Shield race. But you could see them dropping points and then storming up the table, storming kind of back up when Messi and everybody returns. But I would have expected they would have drifted away from the Shield race by now, and they haven't. So what can you say about Inter Miami other than they're incredible? They have the top-end talent. They have a lot of rising talent. We'll see what happens with Diego Gomez. Brighton put in a bid. I know that they are asking for $25 million. That is Miami for Gomez. I think that they would take 15. If that bid comes, $15 million, that's a big number. If Brighton say we want him now, you probably have to let him go now. But hopefully he gets to stay for the rest of the season and go from there. But Inter Miami, surprisingly, kind of they've slipped in some of the expected goals metrics and everything else. They're now 6th in expected goals total, which is very surprising. And their expected goals against is very high. So I think that this team in particular, with all of the top-end talent and Drake Callender's shot-stopping ability, you could probably throw out those numbers a little bit, or at least take a little bit off, because, Lionel Messi, guess what? He's going to overperform XG. Guess what? So is Luis Suarez, right? That's kind of the extent of the numbers, but just felt like throwing that out. Number 1, LAFC. Unbeaten in 8, 1 loss in 13, 7 wins in the last 8. Schedule has been soft, to be fair, but, oh man, they've arrived. I've been pointing at their underlying numbers all year. They are first in MLS in expected goals, 37. They are first in MLS in expected goals against with 20. That plus 17 expected goal difference is so far and away first in MLS. They're third in actual goal difference. They have Olivier Giroud coming. They have flexibility to make more additions this summer. And even when they don't seem to have flexibility, they seem to make moves. So even with flexibility, you never know what's coming for this team. I've been saying it all season. I'm not worried. And they've, backed it up, thankfully, so I don't look too stupid. But they play Colorado this weekend. I think that's going to be a fun one. They have the Galaxy after that. They have Houston after that. And Columbus, Real Salt Lake. These next 5 games, absolutely must watch. Every weekend, they're probably going to be one of the games of the week. So LAFC, this next stretch is going to be great. Too bad that Olivier Giroud couldn't be here already, but he can't. He's not allowed to join until July 18th. He's at the Euros anyway. And if France make it to the final, that's July 14th. I don't know exactly when Olivier Giroud is going to be here. I assume that they're going to give him a break, as I think every player that plays a full European season before coming to MLS should. There should be a little bit of a rest so they don't absolutely run out of gas at the end. So I'm very curious to see, let me rephrase. I wish that Olivier Giroud was able to play in this stretch of games. I cannot wait to see what he does to this team. Shout out Kai Kamara, number 2 MLS all-time leading scorer, absolute legend. This team is awesome, and guess what? They get to add France's all-time leading scorer at some point over the next month or so. It's feels almost unfair for a moment. That'll do it for Power Rankings May here. Oh my goodness, talking so much. Follow Soccer-wise. I should have some more news for you coming up. Personal news, not transfer news. So stay tuned. Everything's all good. Keep it up. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you. These videos are going longer and longer because I'm rambling, and you guys have told me, hey, don't worry about the length. And looking at the numbers on YouTube, a lot of you guys stay to watch a lot of the video, which, bottom of my heart, fully appreciate it. Again, the comments, the nice ones, I love very much. You guys, all the best. Can't do any of this without you. I don't want to sound like this is an Oscar speech, and again, I might have some news coming up, and I'm probably gonna get sappy then to thank all of you guys and to just appreciate you guys. But just know it is not lost on me. And none of this is possible without any of you. So appreciate that. I'm going to stop talking like I just won a beauty pageant. I'm going to stop talking. And you know what? I wouldn't win a beauty pageant. Appreciate you all. Tune in next time.